This call is now being recorded. Good morning, friends. Today we are going to continue from where we were left with, that is income from house property, and we are going to take up some numerical problems. So this is the numerical problem which is there. The numerical problem, that is, there are 5 houses, and you are supposed to find out the gross annual value of the house property. So I told you in the last class there are 5 steps to find out the gross annual value of the house property, and the steps are: step 1 is you have to find out the expected value. Number 2, we have to find out rent received or receivable minus unrealized rent before deducting vacancy rent. Number 3 is step number 3, you have to compare step number 1 with step number 2, and whichever is highest, that is the answer to step number 3. Step number 4, you have to find out the loss due to vacancy, as the house may be vacant for a certain period of time and there may be a subsequent loss. So step 4 is you have to find out loss due to vacancy, and step 5 is simple, step 3 minus step 4. Okay, let's start doing trying to find out the gross annual value of house property 1, house property 2, house property 3, and house property number 4 and 5 consecutively. So let's talk about house number 1. So here the particulars which are given is house number 1, municipal value, fair rent, standard rent, actual rent, unrealized rent, and loss due to vacancy. Okay. Now the municipal valuation is 30,000 per month. Fair rent is 34,000 per month. Standard rent is 31,000 per month. So if you want to find out the reasonable expected rent, that is step number 1, or expected rent as we call it, you have to compare municipal valuation with versus fair rent, whichever is highest. And in this case, 30,000 versus 34,000, whichever is highest is 34,000. And after you have found out this, you have to compare the resultant figure with standard rent, and among them, whichever is the lowest, that is the expected rent. So 34,000 versus 31,000, whichever is lowest is 31,000. That is the reasonable expected rent, number 1. So step number 1 we have calculated. Step number 2 is step number 2 is step number 2 is rent received or receivable minus actual rent. This speaks that the rent at which this particular house property is been let out by the owner to the tenant. In this case, it has been let out at a monthly rent of 33,500. 33,500 or 33,500. Okay. Now, from this, you have to deduct unrealized rent. Okay. So this is okay. This is per annum. Okay. Please, I'm striking off. It is per annum. Per annum. This house property has been let out per annum. Per annum. Now, step number 2, you have to find out the actual rent at which it has been let out minus unrealized rent. So the house has been rented out at 33,500 per for the whole year. So minus unrealized rent. Unrealized rent is 1,000 rupees. So 33,000 minus 1,000 rupees is 32,500. So this is the step 2. Now step number 3 is calculate. Step number 3, the simple answer is step number 1 versus step number 2, whichever is highest. So 31,000 minus 32,500, whichever is highest is 32,500. So the answer for step 3 is 32,500. Now step number 4 is you have to find out the vacancy rent. In this case, it is given straight away that the vacancy rent for the whole year is 500 rupees. So 2,500 was the answer to step number 3. Now loss due to vacancy is 500. So just place 500 rupees in the column loss due to vacancy, in the row loss due to vacancy. Next, you have to find out the 5th step, which tells what is the gross annual value of the house property. In this case, step 5, the answer is step 3 minus step 4. So step 3 is 32,500. Step 4 is 500. The difference of 32,500 and 500 is 32,000. So the gross annual value of the house property is 32,000 for the first house. Please remember, this problem is done on the basis of not per month but on the basis of per annum. Okay, it's a typing error. You can just please take into account. Now let's talk about the let's find out the gross annual value of the second house property. Let's calculate the gross annual value of the second house property. The second house property, the details are given. The municipal value is 30,000 the whole year. Fair rent is 34,000 for the whole year. Standard rent is 31,000. Actual rent at which it has been let out is 33,500. Unrealized rent for the house property during the financial year 2019-20 is 3,000 and the vacancy rent is 500. From this, we will find out the gross annual value. So first we have to find out step number one, which is expected rent or reasonable expected rent. So it is nothing but municipal value, municipal value versus fair rent, whichever is highest. So 34,000. Compare this fair rent with standard rent, which is 31,000, and among them, whichever is lowest. So 31,000. So 34,000 versus 31,000, whichever is lowest is 31,000. So that is the expected rent or reasonable expected rent, number one. Step number two is actual rent at which it has been let out minus unrealized rent before deducting vacancy rent. So the rent has at which this house property has been let out is 33,500. So 33,500. 33,500 minus unrealized rent. So a part of the rent was not realized out of this 33,000, which is 30,000, sorry, 3,000. So 33,500 minus 3,000 is 30,500. Number two step is over. Number three step, 31,000 versus 30,500, whichever is highest. So obviously it is 31,000, which is highest. So step number three is completed. Step number four is what is the vacancy loss during the year financial year 2019-20 because of the house being remaining vacant for a certain period of time. The loss is 500 rupees. Next, step number five is step number three minus step number four. Step number three minus step number four. So step number three is 31,000. Step number four is 500. So deduct 31,000 and deduct 500 from 31,000. It is sorry 30,500. So the gross annual value of the house property is 30,500. So this is the gross annual value of the second house property. Now let's talk about the third house property and try to find out step one, step two, step three, step four, step five to find out the gross annual value of the house property. Step one. Step one is you are trying to find out the fair, reasonable expected rent. The reasonable expected rent, the formula is municipal value versus fair rent, whichever is highest, and then compare it with the compare it with the standard rent, and among them, whichever is the lowest. So here in this case, the principal value is 30,000, parent is 34,000. Among them, the highest is 34,000. Compare this one with the standard rent, whichever is the lowest. So among them, the lowest is 34,000. So 34,000 I have taken as step number one. Step number two is actual rent at which it has been let out minus unrealized rent. So actual rent at which it has been let out is 36,500, 36,500, and unrealized rent is 2,500 during the financial year. So it is 34,000. Step number two. Step number one, step number two. Step number three is compare step one with step two, whichever is highest. So both of them are same. So 34,000 will be eventually the result of step number three. Step number four is loss due to vacancy. The amount of loss due to the vacancy during the financial year 2019-20 is 500. So place that figure. So 34,000. Step 5 is step 3 minus step 4, that is 34,500. Sorry, 34,000 minus 500 is equal to 33,500. So this is the gross annual value of the house property number 3. So hope you have understood it. Next one. Next one is similar on similar lines. Let's find out the gross annual value of the house property number 3. So in this given problem, house number 4, house number 4, the municipal value is 56,000. The fair rent is 58,500. The standard rent is the 57,500. The actual rent at which it has been let out is 60,500, and unrealized rent is 25,000. 25,000. 25,000. 25,000. And the loss due to vacancy as far as the fourth house is concerned is 500 rupees. From this given data, you have to find out the gross annual value. Let's find out the gross annual value from the given property. First step, that is expected rent. Expected rent is municipal value versus fair rent, whichever is highest, which is 58,500. Compare this with the standard rent, 57,500. Among them, whichever is lowest is the answer to step number 1. So the reasonable expected rent or expected rent is 57,500. Next one is step number 2, that is actual rent minus unrealized rent. So the house property has been let out at an uh, actual rent of 60,500 minus unrealized rent, which is 25,000. So a major part of the rent has been received. So 60,500 minus 25,000 is 35,500. So that is the step number 2, actual amount received or receivable. So step number 2 is over. Step number 3, compare step number 1 was with step number 2, and among them whichever is highest, which is 57,500. So compare 57,500 with 35,500. Among them whichever is highest is 57,500. Now, next, you have to calculate vacancy rent. So step number 4 is vacancy rent. In the given problem, the vacancy rent is 500 rupees. The loss due to vacancy is 500 rupees. So 57,500 minus 5,100 will give you the step number 5 answer. That is the gross annual value. Step number 5 is the difference between step number 3 and step number 4. That is 57,500 minus 500 is 57,000. So this is the gross annual value of the house property. Hope you have understood this part of the as far as calculation of gross annual value of the house property number 4. Let's talk about house number 5 and let's calculate step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and gross annual value. So in this case, it is given that municipal value is 56,000, fair rent is 58,500, standard rent is 57,500, actual rent at which it has been let out is 55,000, unrealized rent is 20,000, and loss due to vacancy is nil. Means the house has not remained vacant for any part of the year, that is financial year 2019 and 20. Let's calculate step number 1, which is expected rent. Expected rent is nothing but fair rent versus municipal valuation, whichever is highest. So among these two, whichever is highest is 58,500. Compare this one with standard rent, whichever is lowest is the expected rent or reasonable expected rent, which is 57,500. Number 1 step is over. Number 2, you have to find out actual rent received or receivable, which is given by the formula actual rent at which it has been let out minus unrealized rent. So this particular house property has been let out at 55,000 rupees per annum. So actual rent, that is 55,000, and the unrealized rent is 20,000 for the financial year. So 55,000 minus 20,000 is 35,000. That is the step number 2, that is actual rent received or receivable. So this step 2 is also over. Step 3 is compare step 1 result with step 2 result, and among them whichever is highest, that is to be taken into account for as a value for the step 3. So step 3 is 57,500 versus 35,000, whichever is highest is 57,500. Step 4 is whatever is the loss due to vacancy, please take into consideration as step number 4. So that is 0. The house property has not remained vacant for any part of the year. Step number 5 is step number 4 minus step number 3 minus step number 4. That is 57,500 minus 0. That is 57,500. That is the gross annual value of the house property. So this is the method, more way of finding out the gross annual value of the house property by using step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, step number 4, and step number 5. So let's do a similar problem. Okay, let's take up the next part of our discussion. The next part of our discussion is now. This is the most important part of our discussion as far as income from house property is concerned. Computation of annual value of the one self-occupied house property. Okay, one self-occupied house property may fall in any one of the following categories. Let's see what are the different types of situations. Let's see the different types of situations. There are majorly four different situations in which the house property can be occupied or let out. Let's read out one by one. If such house property is used by the owner during the year throughout the year, if such house property is used by the owner or the owner of the house property during the whole year, it is being used for his own residential purpose and it is not let out or put to any other use. So this is the house property and this is the owner. The owner is occupying this house property during the year for his own residential purpose. Neither he has let out or neither he has put this house property to use or either it is business use or any other use. So this is the first circumstance or a situation. Now the second situation is if such house property could not be occupied by the owner of the house property throughout the previous year because of his employment, because of this employment. So during the year the house property has remained unoccupied because the owner being employed or doing business or profession in a place where the house property is not situated. So this is a second situation. What does it mean? It means that Mr. A is there in Pune. In Pune, he is having a house in Pune. He is having a house in Pune, and this house has remained vacant or remained unoccupied throughout the year by the owner, Mr. X, because Mr. X is there in Bangalore and he is having a job in Bangalore or doing a job in Bangalore or doing a job business in Bangalore or he has taken up a profession of a doctor or engineer or something like that and doing that professional job in Bangalore. So in this case, the house property has remained vacant. There is no income from the house property, and the house property has not been occupied by any of the owner. Neither it has been let out to the third party on rental purpose. So this is circumstance number two. Circumstance number three. When a part of the house property being independent is self-occupied and the other party is let out. Now, in this case, the situation number three is different from situation number one and number two. Situation number three speaks that there is a house property. There is a house property which is not independent, which is not dependent. They are independent. Means a part of this can be self-occupied and a part of this can be let out. So, for example, three-fourth of it can be self-occupied. One-fourth is or there is a chance of being let out. That one-fourth of the property. So they are not dependent residential units. They are rather independent residential units, and a part of is self-occupied by the owner, and if the remaining part of it is being let out by the owner to the tenant. This is the circumstance number three. And in all these circumstances, one, two, three, and four, you have to find out the gross annual value, and finally, you have to find out the income from the house property given the situation one, two, and three. Now, number four, when such a house property is self-occupied for part of the year and for the remaining part of the year, it has been let out to a third party on a rental purpose. So this is a different situation from that of situation one, two, and three. The situation four speaks that during the financial year 1920, for example, which is consisting of 12 months, 3 months it may be self-occupied, for example, 9 months it is been rent out, or 6 months it is self-occupied, 6 months it is rent out, or 7 months it is self-occupied and 5 months it is let out. So there can be a situation like this, and you have to find out the gross annual value and the income from house property in the situation 4 also. Let's take up the first situation. What is the first situation? The first situation is the house property is being self occupied by the by the owner of the house property throughout the financial year. Okay, so what does it mean? There is a house property, and the house property belongs to Mr. X, and Mr. X is using the house property throughout the house financial year 2019-20 for his residential purpose, and it is self-occupied. We use the word self-occupied. Now, in such a case, you have to find out the income from house property. We have to compute income from house property. As already discussed in the previous class, this is the format to find out the income from house property. The first one is gross annual value. From that, you have to deduct municipal taxes paid by the owner during the previous year. If you deduct A from B, or gross annual value from and you deduct municipal taxes from gross annual value, you will get net annual value of the house property. So this is step 3. From the net annual house property, you can are eligible. The owner is eligible. The owner of the house property is eligible to deduct two expenses. One is standard deduction at a rate of 24 under section 24 at a rate of 30% on NAV. This is the NAV, and interest on borrowed capital. Interest on borrowed capital, and this capital borrowed money is borrowed for the purpose of construction of the house property, or reconstruction of the house property, or purchase of the house property. So whatever interest you are paying to the bank, that is deductible. So let's calculate, and from net annual value, after you deduct the 30% towards standard deduction on NAV, and subsequently interest on borrowed capital, the remaining amount is called as income from self-occupied house property. Self-occupied house property. So let's with this background, let's calculate income from house property of a self-occupied house property. So first and foremost, when the house is self-occupied by the owner for the whole year, there is no income, there is no rent, and obviously the most important point is the gross annual value of the house property is zero or nil nil. So the most important point under computation of income from house property, which is self-occupied by the owner throughout the year, the gross annual value of the house property is nil, nil, and nil. Municipal taxes paid by the owner will not be allowed, because already we are given a chance to show the gross annual value as zero. So municipal taxes, if any, paid will not be allowed. That is also zero. So 0 minus 0, the net annual value will be 0. The net annual value will be 0. The net annual value will be 0. On this net annual value, you are allowed for a standard deduction of 30% on the NAV. And on the NAV, a standard deduction of 30% is allowed under section 24. So 0 into 30% is 0. So this is also 0. Now interest on borrowed capital. And this capital is borrowed by the owner from a bank, and the owner, or the house property owner, is paying interest for the financial year, and that is allowed as a deduction for a self-occupied house property to the extent of rupees 2 lakhs for a financial year, and 2 lakhs can be allowed as a deduction. And assuming that he has paid 2 lakh rupees as interest on borrowed capital, so you can deduct 2 lakh rupees. So 0 minus 0 is equal to 0, and standard deduction is 0 minus 2 lakh rupees. So the income from house property is minus 2 lakh rupees. That means that there is a loss from the house property to the extent of 2 lakh rupees for the financial year 2019-20. Let's take a small problem and understand the steps one by one. And we have a numerical problem for this kind of a situation. Okay, the problem is, here in this case, the municipal valuation of the house property is 1,20,000. Number one. Number two is Expected fair rent per annum is 1,10,000 rupees. Number two. Number three, standard rent under Rent Control Act is 8,000 rupees per month. Number two. Number three is actual rent at which it has been let out. As this is a self-occupied house property, there is no question of income generated from rent. So it is a self-occupied house property. So it is rent is zero. Municipal taxes paid by Mr. X during the year on the house property is 15,000 rupees. And water charges, sewage charges, insurance, painting, etc., insurance that is payable on the house property were 6,000 and 8,000, and they have paid it. And Mr. X has taken a loan from the house loan on the house property, that is for the construction of the house property from a approved bank or a nationalized bank of India. And during the year 2019-20, financial year 2019-20, he has paid a rent of interest of 1,20,000 rupees. Please remember one important point before I do the problem is water charges, sewage tax, fire insurance, repairs, if any paid are incurred by the owner, will not be allowed as a deduction, because in place of all these extraordinary items, according to Income Tax Act 1961, the owner of the house property is allowed a straight away upright standard deduction of 30% on NAV for all these expenditures like painting, repairs, insurance, ground rent, so on and so forth. So let's do the problem. Income from a self-occupied house property. So the first step is there. To find out the income from house property, we have five steps. First, you have to find out the gross annual value. We have to find out less from. You have to find out the municipal taxes paid by the owner during the year, and then deduct it. You will get net annual value. On this net annual value, there is a standard deduction of 30% on as a standard deduction, and less from that interest on borrowed capital. Let's do step by step. So as I already told, for a self-occupied house property, the gross annual value is zero. So zero. Municipal taxes, if any paid, will not be accounted or not taken into account. It is ignored and it is zero. So zero minus zero is zero. So the net annual value of the house property is zero. Now step number 5, less standard deduction. Less deduction under section 24, 1 and 2. So standard deduction at a rate of 30% of NAV. The NAV is zero. So standard deduction of 30% on zero is also zero. Interest on borrowed capital, as it is shown in the problem, that he has paid an interest of 1,20,000 rupees for the construction of house property during the financial year 2019-20. So this is allowed as a deduction. So 0 minus 1,20,000 is 1,20,000 minus. So there is a loss from the house property incurred by the owner of the house property. Next one. There are some points to be remembered as far as interest on borrowed capital. So these are the points. Let's discuss one by one. Interest on borrowed capital. Interest on borrowed capital of the current year and pre-construction period is allowed as a deduction. Interest of the interest on borrowed capital of the current year and pre-construction period. So there is a separate topic called as pre-construction period. At that time, we will discuss interest on pre-construction period. So current year plus pre-construction period interest put together aggregate is allowed to be deducted as interest on borrowed capital under section 24, that is deductions under section 24. However, it is a deductible subject to some ceilings, maximum ceilings as given below. Okay, maximum ceiling if capital is borrowed on or after 1/4/1991. Please remember there is a ceiling how much I can allow as a deduction for a self-occupied house property. The maximum ceiling or limit which can be allowed as in deduction as interest on borrowed capital under section 24 of Income Tax Act is if the loan for the construction of the house property or purchase of the house property or acquisition of the house property is is on or before 1/4/1999, means if the capital is borrowed for the purpose of construction or acquisition or purchase of the house property is on or after 1/4/1999, if the following three conditions are satisfied, interest on borrowed capital is deductible to a maximum of 2 lakh rupees. So there are three conditions. If you have borrowed the the capital for the construction and or sorry purchase or acquisition of the house property, and this borrowed amount is borrowed on or after 1/4/1991, then if the following three conditions are satisfied, then a maximum ceiling of 2 lakh rupees can be allowed as a deduction under section 24 as interest on borrowed capital for the purpose of construction or acquisition or purchase of house property. Now, what are these conditions? These conditions are very, very important. Condition 1, 2, and 3. Condition 1, 2, and 3. The condition 1 is the capital should be borrowed. The capital should be borrowed on or after 1999, 1st April 1999. If you have borrowed the the loan for the construction or acquisition of house property before, then this ceiling of 2 lakh rupees doesn't come into picture. To maximum of 2 lakhs is not allowed. So capital is borrowed on or after 1/4/1999 for acquiring or construction of the house property, not for reconstruction or repair of the house property. It should be purely for acquiring or purchasing or construction of the house property. Number one condition. Number two condition is the acquisition or construction of the house property should be completed within 5 years from the end of the financial year in which the capital was borrowed. For example, the loan was borrowed on 8/10. What this condition 2 speaks about, 8/10/2002 is the date on which the loan was taken. Sorry, 8/8/02 I will take. That is on 8th February 2012 the loan was taken. So what it means to say that the acquisition or construction of house property should be completed. घर का construction या purchase जो है, it should be completed within 5 years. Okay, 5 years from the end of the financial year in which the loan was borrowed. The loan was borrowed on this date. So subsequent to this, you find out when does this financial year end. The year ends on 31st March 2002. So from 1/4/2002 to 3, 1 year, 4, 2 years, 5, 3 years, 6, 4 years, and 7. So 1/4/2003 is second year, first year to second year, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and fifth year. Means you should have completed the construction of the house property on or before 31st March 2017. So this is the meaning of it. Number two, the person extending the loan certifies that such interest is payable in respect of amount advanced for acquisition or construction of the house property as such. Okay, so the person who is extending the loan gives a certificate that this interest is paid by the assessee or by the owner of the house property for the loan which he has taken on a set on for the construction or purchase of the house property. So this is about condition 1, condition 2, and condition 3. If the following now, what has happens if any of these three conditions are violated or not fulfilled? In such a case, what is going to happen is the following points should be noted. If the capital is borrowed for reconstruction or repairs or renewals of the house property, then the amount that will be maximum allowed as deduction under section 24 as interest on house capital is 30,000 rupees and not 2 lakh rupees. So if the house property, the loan for the house property is taken not for the purpose of purchase or buying or acquisition or construction of house property, but rather for reconstruction or repairs or renewal of the house property, then this 2 lakh rupees is not allowed, even though you might have paid as an owner of the house property an interest of 3 lakh rupees, but this is not allowed as the house property is borrowed capital is borrowed for the purpose of reconstruction, repair, or renewal of the house property. In such a case, as the condition 1 is not satisfied, this condition is not satisfied, so the maximum amount which will be allowed is 30,000 rupees. Number 1. If the following condition two conditions if the following two conditions are there, then also the maximum which will be allowed is maximum rupees 30,000. Now let's see another two circumstances. If the capital is borrowed before 1/4/1999 for the purpose of construction or purchase or renewal, purchase, construction, reconstruction, repairs. So if the loan is borrowed before 1/4/1999, the maximum amount of the interest which will be allowed to show as deduction irrespective of whatever is the amount is lowered to 30,000 rupees. For example, he has paid 2 lakh rupees and the loan was taken on 1/4/1998. So as the loan is taken before 1/4/1991, even though he has paid the interest of 2 lakh rupees, the maximum which will be allowed as reduction is 3 lakh rupees. So this is point number 2. Point number 3. If the capital is borrowed on or after 1/4/1999 for the construction of the house property, for reconstruction of house property, sorry, for repairs of the house property or renewal of house property, even though the loan is borrowed after 1/4/1991, but the purpose of the borrower is not for the construction or repair, so not for the purpose of construction or buying or acquisition of the house property, but it has been found that it is for the purpose of reconstruction or repair or renewal or remodifying, then in such a case, as it is not for the purpose of construction and purchase, and if the loan is taken, even though the loan is taken after 1/4/1999, the maximum that will be allowed as deduction under section 24 towards interest on borrowed capital is rupees 30,000 maximum. Next one. This is very, very important. And this is, as I already told in the previous slides, that two interests are allowed to be deducted under section 24 under interest on borrowed capital. One among them is current year interest and pre-construction period interest. Pre-construction period interest. So current year, whatever interest you are paying, that is 2019-20, whatever interest you are paying, that is also allowed as deduction. Plus pre-construction period means if any interest is paid, which is not which was not which the assessee was not able to show as deduction as interest on for the pre-construction period, then such a case these two put together can be allowed to be showed as deduction under section 24 as interest on borrowed capital for the construction or acquisition of house property as such. Let's see what do you mean by pre-construction period. Very important. Let's pay attention to what do we mean by pre-construction period. Now, pre-construction period, the period, the period from borrowing money until the construction of the house property is called as pre-construction period. This is step number 1. So, for example, if somebody has borrowed a loan from the bank for the construction of the house property or for the purchase of house property on 10/8/2006. So, please remember this is the commencement date, commencement date of pre-construction period. Pre-construction period, commencement date of pre-construction period, or starting point, I will call it starting point of pre-construction period, starting date or starting point of pre-construction period, that is the date on which the loan was taken is the pre-construction period starting point or starting date. So the period from borrowing loan from the bank for the construction of house property till the construction of a house property is completed, until the construction of a house property is okay. So uh, for example the house property is completed on 1/8/2020, for example 2019. So pre-construction period prematurely is understood as starting point starts from 10/8/2016 and ends on 1/8/2019, but with some conditions. Let's see one by one. Pre-construction period deduction is allowed. Now, as the house property was constructed in 1/8/2019, because in this case the loan was taken, sorry, 2000, I will consider this as 2010, okay? Such a lengthy period it will not take to construct, but he has taken on 10/8/2006 and it has completed on 1/8/2010. Now, in this case, from 10/8/2006 to 31st, 1/8/2010, there was no house property, and hence the reason, because of this reason, he was not filing the income tax returns, that is income from under the heading income from house property, because there was no house property as such. But he has been kept on, he is paying interest regularly from 2006 10 August to before the date of construction. He has been paying. So this particular expenditure incurred for the purpose of interest on borrowed capital for the construction of house property was not allowed, because there was no existence of the house property. So this house income, this interest for this duration of time is allowed to be deducted in the subsequent years for 5 years. So we will see in depth what are those 5 years, from where it will, where, from which year it is going to start, and so on and so forth. Let's talk about the pre-construction period in detail. So here the next step is pre-construction period is allowed, interest is allowed as deduction. Whatever interest what you have paid during the pre-construction period, that interest is called as pre-construction interest. So pre-construction interest deduction is allowed for interest payments from the date of borrowing till 31st March, before the financial year in which the construction of house property was completed. So when we will take up a small problem, we will be able to understand in depth what we are talking about. Interest payable by an assessee in respect of funds borrowed for the acquisition of house property or construction of house property and pertaining to in which the house property has been acquired or construction to the extent is not allowed as a deduction under any provisions will be allowed as deduction under this particular act in 5 installments commencing from the previous years in which the house is acquired or constructed. So before I explain this slide, I think what I need to tell to you is you can take a snapshot of this particular way of finding out the interest on pre-construction period. And let's take up a small problem and discuss with the help of a new illustration this particular concept of pre-construction period and interest on pre-construction period, because explaining through theory is not is not pragmatic. Let's take up a practical problem to understand the pre-construction period and how interest of pre-construction period has to be calculated and how it has to be divided and showed as expenditure for in 5 equal installments. Okay, let's take up a small problem. Very important, please pay attention and let's do the problem. So in this case, our primary intentions are not to find out pre-construction period interest, but rather we will first step is we'll find out pre-construction period. We will find out pre-construction period. Let's find out pre-construction period. So Mr. S. Ramesh Kumar Mehta has taken a loan of 5 lakh rupees at 12 percentage per annum for construction of the house property, and this loan was taken on 8/8/2015. So the loan was taken on 8/8/2015. This is the starting point of the pre-construction period. As I already told, the starting point of the pre-construction period will start or commence from the date of loan taken. And in all the case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the date of loan taken is 8/8/2005. So the pre-construction period starts from 8/8/2015. 2015, sorry. Now, the construction of the house property is completed on June 20, June 26, 2018. So in all the cases, it is found that the the construction of the house property was completed on June 26, 2018. So the starting point is 08/2015. Number one, number two. So this is starting point, no problem as such as far as the starting point of the pre-construction period is concerned. Number one. Number two is now where does it end? Now where does it end? to find out the terminating point, or the end date of this particular pre-construction period, you have to find out two dates. That is the date on which the house property was completed, number one. Number two, the date of repayment of loan. So one is, please remember there are three dates. The date of loan taken, date of loan taken, किस डेट के ऊपर लोन लिया है, एक नंबर वन है. नंबर टू आके डेट ऑफ कंप्लीशन ऑफ कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ हाउस प्रॉपर्टी और परचेज ऑफ हाउस प्रॉपर्टी. ये हाउस प्रॉपर्टी कंप्लीट कब किया कंस्ट्रक्शन या कब परचेज किया, नंबर टू. नंबर थ्री इज डेट ऑफ लोन रीपेमेंट, the date on which the loan was fully repaid. So these three dates are there for the purpose of calculation of the house property. And the starting point, as I already told, it is the date of loan taken. So date of loan taken is the starting point. Now, what is the end period, end date? The end date is date of construction of house property or date of repayment of loan taken. Among them, whichever is earlier, that is the end date. That is the end date of a pre-construction period. That is the end date of pre-construction period. So hope you have understood. Let's do the try to find out the pre-construction period. Pre-construction period. So in this case, the construction of house property was completed on 26 June 2018. 26 6 2018. 26 6 2018. 26 6 2018. In all the cases, it is same. Number two. Number three, date of repayment of loan. Now, the date of repayment of a loan are different for different cases. In the first case, it is 2017. In the second case, 2035, 2019, and 2030, respectively. So now we have to compare date of construction of the house property, completion of the house property, with the date of repayment of loan, and among them, whichever is earliest. Whichever is the earliest. So in this case, the earliest is, first case, it is 15/5/2017. 15/5/2017. 15/5/2017. 15/5/2017. Now, before that, what you have to do is, uh, you have to find out the house property was constructed in which year, and in this case, it was found that the house property was constructed on 26/6/2018. So in this case, before this, you have to find out uh, which is the financial year which was preceding this particular date. So the previous year, previous financial year preceding this date of construction of house property, completion of house property is 1st April 2017 to 31st March 2018. So here you have to take this and compare this with this. So 31st March 2018 compared with 15/5/2017. In the second case, 31st March 2018 compared with the loan repayment of loan taken, that is on 7 August 2035. In the third case, 31st March 2018 compared with 8th September 2019. And in the last case, 31st March 2018 compared with 3rd February 2020. So after you compare this, now compare. How do you compare, and what is the mode of comparison? The mode of comparison is among these two, whichever is the earliest. 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 So in this case, it is found that in the first case, this is the earliest. In the second case, we have found that this is the earliest. In the third case, also this is the earliest, and fourth case, this is the earliest. That is 31st March 2018. So now you have found out the two dates. One is the starting date and one is the ending date. So the starting date is the date of loan taken. So in all the cases, it is 8th August 2015, number one, and and the end date is 31st March 2000. Sorry, 15/5/2017. The first case. In the second case, it is 31st March 2018. In the fourth case, also it is 31st March 2018. In the third case, also it is 31st March 2018. So the pre-construction period for the first house property begins from 8th August 2015 to 15th March or 15th May 2017. In the second case, it begins from 8th August 2015 and ends on 31st March 2018. And 8th August for the third house property, it is 8th August 2015 to 31st March 2018. And in the last case, it is 8th August 2015 to 31st March 2018. Hope you have understood it, but I will explain once again so that any element of doubt is there, it will be clarified. Let's calculate the pre-construction period by attempting one more time. Okay, so pre-construction period starts from date of loan taken. The pre-construction period starts from date of loan taken. In either cases or case number one, case number two, case number three, the pre-construction period is 31st, sorry, 8th August 2015. So that is the starting point of the pre-construction period. So we have found out the starting point. So our first point is over. Second point is the date of repayment of loan taken. So we have found out the date of repayment of loan taken. In the first case, it is 15th May 2017. In the second case, it is 7th August 2035. In the third case, it is 8th September 2019. And in the last case, it is 3rd February 2020. 3rd February 2020. So this is first, this is second. Third, when was the house property completed? The house property was completed in the on sorry date 26th June 2018. 26th June 2018, and go back from prior to 26th June 2018, you find out the financial year ending. The financial year ending prior to 26th June 2018 is 31st March 2018. So this is another date. Step number 3. So step number 3, as the house property is completed in all the cases as on 26th June 2018, and the financial year ending before this date is 31st March 2018 in all the cases. So step number 3, we got the answer 31st March 2018 in all the 4 cases. So you got the figures what you wanted. You wanted to find out all what you wanted, you got it. Now the next point is, now among these two dates what you got, 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 you have to find out the earlier one, which is the one which is coming earlier, which is the one which is coming earlier. So in this case, I will just note, show you, highlight which is the one which is coming earlier. This is coming earlier. In the first case, 15th May 2017 is coming earlier. In the second case, it's 7th August 2035 compared with 31st March 2018. This is coming earlier. This is coming earlier in the third case, because this is 2019. In the fourth case also, 31st March 2018 is coming earlier. So as this is 2020. So this is what you got in the first case. This is the second case. This is the third case, and this is the fourth case. Now the pre-construction period starts from, as already told, that is the date of loan taken from the bank for the construction of house property or construction of house property or acquisition of house property. Compare this. This is a starting point, and whatever result you got just now, that is this one. So this is called the pre-construction period. So this is called as the pre-construction period. This is called as the pre-construction period, which is 8th August 2015 to 15th May 2017. In the second case, 8th August 2015 to 31st March 2018. In the third case, it is 8th August 2015 to 31st March 2018. In the fourth case, also it is 8th August 2015 to 31st March 2018. Now this is called as pre-construction period. Now during this, so next step is you have to find out how many days or months are there from during this particular period. How many months or days or whatever is there, you have to find out, and during this period, how much is the total interest you have paid or the owner has paid. So whatever is the interest you are paying during this during this particular period is called as interest on pre-construction period. Number two. number three number three is this interest if found, then you have to divide it by 5. For example, in the first case, it is found that during this period, the owner has paid an interest of 4 lakh rupees. In this period, during 8th August 2015 to 15th May 2017, the owner has paid 4 lakh rupees as interest. So 4 lakhs divided by 5 is equal to 80,000. So 80,000 per installment, and similarly for 5 installments. And these installments of interest which are not claimed earlier as reduction can be allowed as a deduction in the starting year in which the house property has come into existence. This house property has come into existence in the financial year 2018 onwards. So first time it has to be deducted as a interest on pre-construction period from 1/4/2018 to 2019, 31st March 2019. So 2018-19, sorry, 2000. So in this case, it was 31st March 2017 was the uh, 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 yeah, this particular house property came in the financial year 2017-18. So 2017-18 one installment, 2018-19 the second installment, 19-20 another installment, 2021 another installment, and 21-22 is another installment. In this case, the house property came into existence on 26 June 2018. That is in the year 2018-19. 2018-19. So 2018-19, 2019-20, 2020-21, 21-22, 22-23. So you have to show 80,000 rupees as deduction under interest on pre-construction period. So as there can be element of ambiguity or doubt, even a iota of doubt can be dangerous. I have taken a small example to explain the concept of pre-construction period and interest on pre-construction period with a small numerical problem. With the help of a small numerical problem. Let's do the problem. Mr. S. Ramesh Kumar Mehta has taken a loan of rupees 50 lakhs at 12% per annum for the construction of the house property on 1/8/2015. So this is the starting point. The date of loan taken or date of borrowing of loan from the bank. The construction of the house property completed in 26 6 2017. The house property was completed. The construction came into picture on 26 2017. So what I am supposed to do, whatever date is there, go back and where the financial year ending is, you have to find out. So 31st March 2017. So step number 2. So I have found step number 2. Number 2 is also over. Number 3. Number 3 is when is the date of repayment of loan. Now in this case, the date of repayment of loan is 15/5/2015. So you have found out step number 3. 1, 2, and 3. This is a starting point. Starting point. Now among these two, whichever is the earliest. So in this case, the among these 2 and 3, the earliest is 31st March 2017. So 31st March is the one. 31st March 2017 is the earliest one. So in this case, this has to be ignored subsequently, and this has to be kept, and the starting point starts from here and ends on 31st March 2017. So the pre-construction period is 1st August 2015 and ends on 2017. So this is called as pre-construction period. Number 2. Number 3. Now this pre-construction period, whatever is the interest the owner or the person who has borrowed from the bank is paying as an interest, as there was no existence of house, because the house was not in existence. The existence of the house came on a 2000 the house came on 26 June 2017. Until such time uh, he was not allowed because of non-existence of the loan as a under the income from house property as a deduction. So whatever interest you are going to pay or he has paid will be allowed as deduction. And next we have to find out what is the interest which has been paid from 1st August 2015 to 31st March 2017. So for that purpose, what we are required to find out is how many months or days are there during this period. So for our calculation purpose, I have found out during 2015 calendar year there were 5 months, that is August, September, August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. So calendar year 16, 12 months. Calendar year 17, there are 3 months because January, February, and March. So 5 months to 12 months and 3 months, total 18 months duration is there in between the pre-construction period. So this 18 months, whatever is the interest we have paid, that interest is allowed to be deducted into five equal installments, and we will find out in from where or which financial year this particular installment of interest, pre-construction period interest, can be allowed to be shown. So now we have to find out for 18 months how much interest he has paid. So the formula for finding out the interest on interest of pre-construction period on the loan is simple formula: principal into time into rate. Okay, so principal is 50 lakh rupees, time is 18 months, 18 divided by 12 becomes 1.5 months, 1.5 years, sorry, into the rate of interest. In this case, the rate of interest given is 12 percentage, 12 by 100, 12 by 100. I will show you here. 50 lakhs into 18 divided by 12, that is 1.5 years. So 1.5 years interest can be showed as deduction. That is what it primarily means as interest of a pre-construction period into 12 percentage. So if you find out this, around 9 lakh rupees was the interest what he has paid as a pre-construction period interest. If you calculate this, you will come to know that during this 18 months, which is the pre-construction period starting from 1st August 2015 ending on 31st March 2017, this person has paid a interest of pre-construction period of 9 lakh rupees. So pre-construction period interest is 9 lakh rupees. The next step is you have to find out five equal installments. So each installment of interest is equal to total interest by 5 is equal to 1,80,000 rupees. So this 1,80,000 rupees will be allowed as deduction for 5 years until it gets completed or extinguishes. So when should be the starting point? The starting point is the year in which the house property came into existence. So if you look, the construction of the house property was in the year 2017. If you look here, the construction of the house property was completed in the year 2017. So 2017, 18 is the first year, 18, 19 is the second year, 19, 20 is the third year, and 20, 21 is the fourth year, and 21, 22 is the fifth year. So during during these financial years, the owner of the house property is allowed to deduct under section 24 uh, interest on pre-construction period 1,80,000 rupees as interest on pre-construction period. Hope this is clear to one and all. Let's take up a small numerical problem and we will find out income from house property. Income from house property. So Mr. S. Ramesh Kumar Mehta owns a house property and it is used by him throughout the financial year. It is used by him throughout the financial year. So the data is given to you, the dates, the data, the particulars and information is given to you. Municipal valuation of the house property is 4,80,000 for the whole year. Expected fair rent, that is the fair rent, is 3,60,000. Standard rent is 3 lakhs, and actual monthly rent actual monthly rent actual monthly rent is self-occupied. Now this is a case of self-occupied house property. Municipal taxes paid by Mehta is 15,000 rupees. water, sewerages, other expenses incurred by the owner during the financial year 2017-19 towards the house property is 6,000 rupees. Fire insurance payable paid by him is 8,000 rupees, and interest on loan taken for the construction of the house property, and the loan is borrowed before 1999. This is number next point. So as the loan is taken before 1/4/1999, as I have told you, the rule says that in this case the maximum interest which will be allowed as deduction is 30,000 rupees, and even though he might have paid 1,20,000 rupees. Income from now, apart from this, Mr. Mehta is even doing in business, and he has got a profit of 5,80,000 from the conduction of this business. Let's find out the income from house property. As this house property, now let's do find out the solution. And as I already told, if there is a self-occupied house property and the house property is occupied by him throughout the financial year, then the gross annual value, as popularly told, is nil. Is nil. The municipal taxes, even he paid, will be just kept as nil. Even though he has paid, just ignore it. So 0 minus 0 is equal to 0. Now allow next one, section under section 24 of Income Tax Act 1961 or 62, whatever it may be. Standard deduction at a rate of 30% on NAV is allowed, but in this case, as there is zero into anything is zero, so 0 minus 0 is 0. And interest on borrowed capital, as it is already told that as the loan is taken on or before 1/4/1991 and not on 1/4 on or after 1/4/1991. So sorry, before, okay, before in this case interest is allowed to a maximum of 30,000 rupees. Okay, even though he has paid 1,20,000, he is allowed to deduct 30,000 rupees. Now income from house property, there is a loss. 0 minus 30,000 is loss. It's a loss. Now business income. Now this is income. There is no. There are five sources of income: income from salary, income from house property, business income, capital gains, and income from other sources. But he's having two sources of income. One is income from house property and income from business. That is profit from business. So loss is there and income is there. Loss in the form of income from loss from house property, that is self-occupied house property, and when he's doing a business, is having a profit, and the profit is 5,80,000 rupees. So this is one source of income. This is another source of income. So under different sources of income, the rule says that loss from house property can be loss from house property can be adjusted against profit from a non-speculative business. So in this case, he need not pay tax on 5,80,000 rupees. The house property loss of 30,000 rupees can be deducted, and eventually he has to pay tax on 5,50,000 only. So these particular concepts come under the sixth chapter, set off and carry forward of losses, and there we'll be talking at least for 2 hours and understand the concepts of set off and carry forward of losses. Set off and carry forward of losses. So with this, I will end, and in the next session we are going to talk about some more concepts related to income from house property. Hope you have understood and everything is clear to you. Thank you so much for attending, and let's end the session.